coach that calls defensive signals or defensive plays that maybe are not there for an offensive minded
I don't think it's that much different. I think it's very similar. The biggest issue with that is how you're torn away from what's going on in the action in between series. If you're doing it right, you have to spend time with what just took place and the adjustments that are necessary, the communications that have to be made, take you away from what's going on in the field. And when it's really run well and you're really well-oiled machine, then you have that coach has a guy or two guys working with him to maintain what's happened in his absence. But it's a good challenge. It's a really good challenge, and it's fun. It's really active. The games are alive and moving. But it is entirely different than not calling plays. It's a big difference.
thing during the week that I guess probably time management is stuff you got to
Well, yeah, there's always enough time, but you have to be in one room or the other, and so if you're calling it and you've got to go through the process of developing the plan on either side, then you're just not available for what's going on the other side. And it just depends. There's been times I know personally that when I've been kind of in both roles, so I feel like I know that pretty well, and you give up stuff to do either way you do it, and so it's just the decisions that the coaches got to make, and it depends on their staff and all that, and what's at hand.
Coach, just to piggyback off that, what were some of the qualities that made Dan Quinn such an effective defensive coordinator while you were working with him?
Shoot, he has everything going. He has great background, worked with great coaches in the past, really fluid thinker, agile mind, creative, strong with the players, all that, and I think his communication skills are probably the greatest strength. He's so clear to guys and to his coaches, and that facilitates all of that's going on, adjusting and growing and creating and all that. Well, he's going to Alabama, right? So it's pretty close. It's not that much difference. I've gone through that too, going back and forth, and it's a tremendous asset to have had the new experience, just because you get challenged. You have to see things differently. The field's different, the game's different, style of play, all that stuff. But it winds up being a really good, positive challenge for you. You just feel like you've grown more. I think he'll feel like the college game has slowed down to him to some extent. It'll look a little bit differently to him than it did before, and he'll only benefit from it. The details that we're able to go through in the NFL relative to the details you can reach in the college game are different, just because of the time frames that you have to work with the guys. And so it's somewhat frustrating when you go back to college ball, that you just can't get to all the stuff that they need to hear, but it's only positive, though. It really helps. So he'll do great. 1-2 punch, and I don't know who's one or who's two. It doesn't matter to me. I thought both guys did a really good job this year. Chris had a fantastic season. It's the first time Chris has really had the opportunity to play a whole season all the way through and show what he's all about. It was exhilarating to watch him have that opportunity and to see him play. His style was great. He loved the way he played. Rashad did a really good job. He got banged up a little bit, and it kind of slowed his start. But once he got going, he showed the explosiveness and the speed and the dynamics that those two guys are. They're good football players, and we love what they bring. They're not the same. Their running style is much different, but there's plenty of room for both those guys. So excited for both of them. We'll see. We'll see. It's a great opportunity for Earl, to have the free agent status now, and it really, the play that he showed last year was extraordinary. He was on fire, until he got banged up, and so everybody looking at him knows that he's got a tremendous high end. He's a great worker, and he's a well-conditioned guy. He's going to be, I think, really at the top of his game again this season, and so it's an exciting time for him. I'm hoping the very best for all of it, whatever happens, and be exciting to watch and see what he does.
On Rashad Penny, Coach, how did he handle being hurt for the first time?
He handled it fine. he had not been hurt. He was one of the healthiest guys going through the draft, so he hadn't had a lot of experience with having to rehab and sit out and all of that. So there was some coaching up for us to do with him to keep him on track and encouraged in time frames and focused and all of that. He was frustrated by it, like a guy should be. He wants to get back out. When he had his finger hurt, he couldn't play because he'd been operated on. But how frustrating! He could run and do everything, but the docs wouldn't let him play. I think it helped. I think it helped him in some regard. I think he appreciates being out there differently maybe than he did because he just never had to go through that before. So he'll be better for it.
What sort of effect do you think Daryl Delpit will have on the Lions offense?
He's a terrific coach. I mean, he's been through it all. He's done everything, and he's well versed. He's got great background. He can run the football. He's got good balance to his style. He's not just one or the other type of guys. He's a terrific coach. I think he'll do great.
You saw your offense really kind of grow throughout the season last year, especially up front. And now that you guys have kind of established that, where do you think it's going to allow you to go?
Wow, isn't that cool? You're talking about us established up front. That hasn't been the topic for a while. I'm thrilled to hear you say that. It did take place. Yeah, we had tremendous growth, and when you're playing with DJ Fluker, growth is really poignant, because he's like 360 or whatever. He had a big impact on us, as did J.R. Sweezy, fitting in with under the leadership of Dwayne Brown. Dwayne is a fantastic addition to our football team. You really couldn't tell the first year. He came in the middle of the season, but his impact and his influence and his awareness and all that to add to. We just got better. Afedi continued to get better. Britt improved. So the whole group was better. We like our young guys, too. We like the guys that are coming up. Jordan Simmons played when he had to a couple games and did a nice job, too, so there's going to be good competition. George Fant came back to us and played a good deal, which he really had a big impact on us. So it's an exciting upcoming season for us in that regard. For the first time in a couple of years, we feel like we're really on track and we have a chance to improve on something that we did pretty well last year running the football. And as the season wore on, we protected for Russell much better. The start was terrible, and couldn't get away from those first two games fast enough. So you can bring that up again if you want. It's okay. Yeah, it's free agency, we got to get through it. It's all part of the process. We have a lot of depth in our relationships. We love those guys. They liked what they were doing. They liked being part of it. Mike Solari did a fantastic job with those guys. They appreciate the whole formula. And so there's some positives in there. But, they're really – I don't know how other teams look at those guys, but for us, they really fit well. So we'll see if we can get it done. I don't know.
You found Chris Carson in the 7th round. What is it about the running back position that allows teams to find really successful players in the mid to late rounds?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question because there's a lot of running backs. There's a lot of choices when you get to the list of running backs and receivers is so vast that guys can get mixed in and their storylines can be hidden. And like Chris was a fantastic story. I think he ran the ball like 80-something times his senior year, 82 times or something like that. So there wasn't a lot to go on. And you just had to dig it out and figure them out and then take a shot at them because you didn't have all of the years of playtime to back up and support the evaluation. And there's a lot of guys like that. And we'll see every year that free agent guys will wind up playing. And the young kid at Denver did a great job this year, Those are just the storylines that are going to happen again this year. You guys are going to, be able to watch those happen again. We don't know. You can't tell. And because there's so many guys and the different levels of play and all, it's just a process you got to figure out, and sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't. Chris was a great pickup for us, and he really played just like what we hoped he could play like. When you saw him on film, you could see glimpses of this great toughness and the acceleration and the explosive way the style. It carried over, and so there's other storylines. We'll hope we can find another one as everybody else is looking too.
Nature of the program.
Everything counts in this deal. And I don't think there's any program that eliminates a guy from having a chance to play. But sometimes the style of play can really almost mask a guy's ability. If they're in a very structured program on a guy that doesn't suit, or the other way around, it can happen. The style of play so much in the college game is offensive linemen are upright and pass protected, and they're not coming off the football. They're not in three-point stances. You don't see that very much. That does challenge us to figure out who's right and who isn't. Can they bend? Are they flexible? Can they come off the rock? And all those kinds of things that we're looking for. Sometimes we have to dig it out, and this process will help us. And going to their school visits and stuff will help us because we'll put them in positions that maybe we didn't get to see them on film.
Where they, it's so regimented that maybe when they get to the NFL,
I don't know. I don't give that much weight. Other than we just have to figure out each kid is an individual, and it depends on how it affected them and all of that. I really don't think that's a factor in holding guys back and where we'll miss them. But excuse me, it's our job to figure it out. We got to figure it out no matter what. So.
Since you're in the same division as the Cardinals, what challenges do you think a coach like Cliff Kingsbury will have in his first year? And what do you think of the trend of the NFL, a lot of young coaches getting opportunities?
Well, we should thank Sean for that. He did a pretty good job, The challenges are that, it's making that transition, and getting to the game that changes, particularly in the passing game. The field's totally different. It's a different field for them, and they have to make those adjustments. Those are adjustments that you can make. Everybody does, but I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that. I mean, I don't know him at all, so I don't know any of the background stuff about him personally. I know he's done a lot of good stuff throwing the football, and they got a good quarterback, and they got a receiver that's as good as anybody in the history of the game, and so they got some pretty bright spots. So it'll be tough, I'm sure.
Well, in college and in the NFL, there are so many more hybrid players at all levels. Has defense become more about matchups than positions in the last few years?
We're seeing like defensive backs all over the field. In the linebacker spot for sure, you can see it. And that's because of the nature of the offenses that they're facing in college. The field is spread out. I mean, this is nothing new. We've been talking this way for years, but really it's just more than ever. Defenses are making I think, the decisions to play guys that are more like defensive backs. And so the linebackers are getting smaller, and they're quicker and niftier, and they can match up differently than they have in the past. So the game's changing in that regard without question. It's pretty obvious, so you're on a good topic there.
What are your thoughts on the changes to youth football in New Jersey and this proposal in that Massachusetts legislation to kind of limit?
I don't know. I'm not aware of those. If you let me know, I'll give me a chance to look it up.
It's the 15 minutes of contact practice in New Jersey, and it's banning tackle practice in Massachusetts, basically for pre-7th grade.
Yeah, anything that's directed in terms of safety and for the players is a good idea, as far as I'm concerned. And we have learned how to tackle without pads and where you can minimize the contact, but still, I hope, accelerate the technique. And I know the conversation is out there across the country. Everybody's trying to figure it out and all that. So anybody's making the efforts, I know Dartmouth, did some good things a couple years back, and making some statements that you can change. The hard challenge for the coaches is their old mind, that they're stuck in the way that we do things. You have to be able to adapt and adjust to what's going on, and anything that has to do with safety is the right idea. So, applaud the fact that they're trying to, at least they're experimenting, and they'll learn from here and they'll adjust from there also. We're just figuring that out, and I can't tell you the allotment, but it's a great tool. It's a great tool for us. The quality of the game looks good, and the guys playing, they're finding an opportunity to show what they can do. And we've always thought that it would be a great advantage to have more football being played, so guys would have a chance not just to show, but also to develop. So I think it's really positive. And I don't know the numbers and stuff, how it's going, but it's a good-looking product to watch.
Quarterback height becoming a topic of discussion again this year. What made you comfortable with Russell's height when you were drafted?
It didn't have anything to do with his height. It had to do with who he was and the player that he was. We got over that part of it. We wouldn't have drafted him. Were we affected by it? Yeah, I think we were. Just because of tradition. And I think that was, I don't know if it was a mistake, but it was a hindrance because he was a great player, obviously. And Those guys that have played their whole lives at that height know what they're doing and know how to do it, and it shows by the way they play. And so that's just how you got to. I think you have to evaluate it. Not everybody agrees with that, but I think we've kind of proven that. Russell's been a fantastic trendsetter and leader in that regard and showing it. He's not the only one. Fran was pretty good too. You guys don't remember George Myra, but he was a guy way back in the day. We can go that far back. Eddie LeBaron even got smaller. So there's a lot of guys that have played. No, there's some guys that have played. Not a lot of guys that have made it all the way to the to the NFL level. But it's really the player and the person and all that. We're seeing a young guy coming up this year. It's a very, very exciting football player that will challenge everybody's evaluations.
Now that you're a couple months removed from the season to reflect on it, just what's your biggest takeaway on how the year ended for you guys and what that can do going forward?
Johnny, it was so positive, really, for all of the challenges that we faced in the offseason and putting things together. So many challenges, even with ownership and everything, that this team found a mentality and a direction and a focus and a spirit about them that really was thrilling to be a part of, and it's thrilling to look towards the future with these guys. And they're at the core of what this program is going to be all about. And if we're able to keep growing and keep going with what we got, we have a chance to have a really good club, and we can be really formidable, I think. There's nobody in our building that thinks different, so it's an exciting time.
Do you want to see replays?
Yeah, I do. The logic is, have you seen him? He's really tall, and he can throw the ball a ton, and he runs around well. Was a #1 pick for obvious reasons. So it's really, at this point, it's really still about potential, to play. But he's got some great aspects to his background, and he's got some NFL experience. It wasn't all great, but it was still experience, and that'll help him with good coaches and all of that. So we're just excited to add him to the competition, see what he brings.
Why do you want to see replay extended? Why do you want to see replay?
Well, from a guy who didn't want it in the first place, I've come a long ways. There continue to be suggestions that are coming up in these meetings this year that will challenge the competition committee and the owners and everyone to think that maybe we got some new ideas that could help. There's some very difficult calls to be made. There's one area in particular that I'm interested in is the defenseless player, those hits that happen so fast. And they challenge the officials on the field as well as the people looking from the booth. They're very challenging calls, but if we can make the right calls and bring the right emphasis that helps the game and all, I think it's a good idea. And specifically, there's some stuff going on. It's going to be interesting to see how the meetings go. But we just got to keep getting better. That's just keep improving and be willing to do that. And that's what's important, and not get stuck in the mud like we got all the answers. We got to keep growing. And so. That's why I'm for the suggestions, and we'll see what happens.
Do you like the option of challenging PI calls?
I don't think that's one of the ones that needs to be at the forefront of it. I know there's some guys that want to bring that one up. I'd like to just keep griping about it, like we always do in that regard. But there's some other ones that may be more important than that, and I wouldn't want to get caught on that one.
If Russ was the same prospect coming out right now as he was his draft year, do you think he would be picked before the third round? And is there a shift in how the league and teams view quarterbacks?
Wouldn't you think teams would be crazy not to pick him earlier? Jeez, I mean, look what he's done. He's had a fantastic career. He's done everything you could hope. He can win. He can make plays. He's unbelievably durable. There's nothing about our style of play that we can't do because of whatever, so I hope that it would have proven to people that, I mean, he's such a living example. He's still functioning. He threw more touchdown passes and fewer interceptions than he ever has in his career this year, so he's still proving it, so I would think that the guys looking at this draft this year and maybe what's available would they would look at it differently. I think that'll be an indicator, and then we'll see what happens,
Hey, Pete, signing Jamie Metter, what did you like about him?
Just hoping that he can add to the competition, really. And at this point, everybody that comes in is going to have to battle. We've got a pretty good roster right now, so it's going to be a great challenge for guys making the team. our history has been so tilted towards guys coming in on free agency, and so many guys. We've had so many free agent players have worked their way to the front and become prominent players in the league. I'd like to think because of opportunity and our openness to the competitive approach to it, and so he enters in I think kind of classic fashion.
The other emphasis on tight ends, you want to build this there. You're looking for a big jump out of him here too. Are you hoping to see him more utilized in the passing game than he was last year?
Will Disley? Yeah, Will had a really good start to the season last year. He came out, probably surprised everybody that he would be so dynamic with the ball in his hands, run after catch. He fit us exactly the way we had hoped. That was one of those draft picks that we were just sweating out the whole way and hoping he would get to us because we needed him badly, and he fit in, did a great job. So Will's working really hard. He's coming back. He's going to be right in the middle of the action, because he can catch it. He can run. He's a nice route runner. He's a formidable blocker, 270-something pounds, and we love the big tight ends, which we showed you with George Fant last year. Did a great job for us. So Will and George and Eddie Dixon, those guys are a pretty good group right there. They all are different, and we'll use them according to their strengths, hopefully well. And we're counting a lot on Will, for sure. Oh gosh, it's crucially important. If you look at the completion percentages, just continue to rise. The passing game continues to be more predominant, and it just calls on everybody to be a factor. Fortunately, our guy Bobby Wagner's as good as you can get. He can cover anybody. He can run it sideline to sideline, as well as make all the makes 30 tackles a year or something. So those players are so important to you, and so the versatility. And the ability to minimize the matchup problems, it has to do with athleticism with inside guys. Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.